Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today, we have a review of the Quest Pro, but in truth, this does borderline on first impressions because as of writing this, I only have about 10 hours of hands-on experience. There's also a whole bunch of new features on this device that are yet to be fully utilized, so my opinions could change in the near future. But at the same time, I just got done reviewing the Pico 4, so I have a very streamlined review process ready to go. I'm sure I've tested everything you want to know about, like screen clarity, battery life, gaming performance, those new features like AR Passthrough and facial and eye tracking, Quest Pro specific applications, and I've even compared this headset side by side to the Quest 2, Pico 4, and Valve Index. If I did happen to miss anything, leave your questions below and I will answer you, or just go ahead and drop your opinion of the Quest Pro down in the comments. This video will start off with my initial first impressions, followed by a pros and cons breakdown list, a gaming performance analysis, and finally my overall thoughts on this headset. Now there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but before we jump in, this video is sponsored by Kiwi Design, one of my favorite sites for VR accessories. They recently released some new Quest 2 headphones that promise to pack some extra bass and increase your audio experience. They currently have my favorite Quest 2 Elite strap with battery pack, and there's plenty of other accessories like enhanced controller grips, replacement facial covers, link cables, and much more. There's a link down in the description, and don't forget to use discount code Mateo311 for 5% off and to help support this channel. Okay, so my first impression of the Quest Pro right out of the box was wow. Meta has finally given us a high-end product, and I continue to be impressed after turning on the device and seeing the headset's excellent clarity and colors. But being greeted by the familiar and sluggish Quest 2 user interface was my first letdown. I quickly activated the pass-through mode, which became another major letdown. It's a great step up from the Quest 2, but if you've seen the clarity on the Pico 4's pass-through, you can't help but be disappointed. Undeterred, I immediately jumped into some games, and the difference between this and the Quest 2 wasn't very striking, at least at first. While the overall clarity is a nice improvement, those excellent colors just don't come through in every single game. And since the delivery of my full light blockers has been delayed, I also had to deal with some additional glare. I tried various techniques to block out the additional light, but at the end of the day, this really didn't bother me as much as I expected it would. I split the next 90 minutes until my battery died between gaming, going through a checklist of items, changing settings, and downloading new software. Now, a few complete battery drains and days later, I now have a list of pros and cons to go through with you guys, and I'm gonna list it in back and forth nature. Finally, we have some high-end hardware, but it still has that low-end OS feel. Right out of the box, the Meta Pro feels and looks like a high-end device, unlike anything I've seen since the Valve Index. But that experience is contrasted by the Quest 2 user interface that still chugs for absolutely no reason, even on their new XR2 Plus chipset. Now, I expect that will be a turnoff for enterprise users and also Quest enthusiasts who splurged on a high-end device. I understand that Meta using the same user interface makes complete sense, but after using a Pico 4, this is just frustrating. While their interface is a bit lifeless, it's intuitive, user-friendly, and best of all, highly responsive. The Quest 2 interface has the distinct feel of a cell phone trying to do too much, and while the Quest Pro is a little bit better, you still get that sensation. Now, the Quest Pro also delivered some increased visuals, but in some instances, when it truly needs the clarity, it just doesn't have it. Even without increasing the resolution on their panels, Quest Pro manages to look significantly better than the Quest 2. The pancake lenses bring much better edge-to-edge clarity, reduced glare and screen door effect, the field of view is slightly improved, and the colors look absolutely fantastic. Now, besides those colors though, it does look just about the same as the significantly cheaper Pico 4. Now, this does vary a bit in-game, which I will get to later. Where clarity goes to die on the Quest Pro is with the AR pass-through. It is just way too blurry with too much glare for me to get any work done. I can't read any of the text on my screen, and I have an absolutely gigantic Samsung Odyssey G9, but it was the same experience when I tried to look at my cell phone. Bringing the device closer to the camera in an attempt to get better clarity only resulted in increased distortion. With pass-through being a key feature of the Quest Pro, this was an extreme letdown, especially when you've seen the image quality of the Pico 4, which is just so much better. Now, this doesn't mean the Pico 4 is better suited for AR, because its single camera and non-stereoscopic display definitely isn't, but at least I could read my screens while using it. The Quest Pro also introduces a bit of a comfort versus convenience trade-off. The headset is undeniably a leap forward compared to the Quest 2, or basically any other headset you've used when it comes to overall comfort. It's extremely well balanced, puts minimal pressure on your head, and my largest complaint was the rubber-like material makes my forehead sweat a lot. Unfortunately though, we're still not to the point of all-day comfort, but this is an amazing step forward. At the same time, it's just frustrating that Meta requires you to buy additional light blockers on an already expensive device. Unlike other headsets where the front rotates or the head strap is pliable, the Quest Pro is completely rigid, requiring you to loosen and retighten it every time you want to lift it up off your head. Now, I understand Meta's direction was you wouldn't need to take it off, but for that to be true, they need to significantly improve their AR pass-through. And we also got another trade-off between extra features and battery life. The Quest Pro also introduces face and eye tracking, which is exciting and fun to play around with, but at the moment is still just a novelty. Eye-tracked foveated rendering isn't really implemented in any titles except for Red Matter 2, and while it can increase the user experience, it doesn't have a major boost to performance compared to fixed foveated rendering. And these new features come at the cost of your battery life, which has been reduced to 1 to 2 hours. Now, John Carmack himself said if you turn off these features, you can increase your battery life, but then what's the point of having a Quest Pro? And if that is the case, why doesn't Meta automatically disable these features whenever you turn on an application that doesn't utilize them? Now, I know people are making a really big deal about this, and yes, 1 to 2 hours of battery life is not really acceptable, but I did get about 90 minutes of gaming, which is basically on par with what my Quest 2 does right now, without an additional battery pack. If you already spent $1,500, what's $100 more for some battery pack that I'm sure Bobo or someone else will release? Now, we have the same situation with the improved controllers. I absolutely love them. They feel great. The haptic feedback has been increased, and tracking occlusion is almost completely eliminated. You can wave the controllers around behind your back, under your desk, and straight up over your head. They're always tracking now, independent of your headset being able to see them or not. Unfortunately though, the battery inside them is no longer replaceable, and they are slow charging. So if you forget to put them back on your dock, you're gonna have a bad day. Now, I'm yet to allow them to drain completely, because my headset always dies first, and then I put everything back on the dock. But I will say they definitely last at least a minimum of 4 hours, because I'm yet to see them drop down past 50%. Okay, so that was the pros versus cons section, but let's get into what many of you guys want to know about, the gaming experience. Similar to the Pico 4, the Quest Pro has minor to moderate improvements across the board compared to the Quest 2. The pancake lenses reduce glare, increase edge-to-edge clarity. The color on the new displays is absolutely amazing. Audio is better, but still not great, and comfort is significantly improved. Unfortunately though, performance isn't much better than your Quest 2. Menus still lag, games occasionally still stutter, and worst of all, latency on my PCVR connection over virtual desktop is up 10 to 15% compared to my Pico 4. Now, this might sound like a ton, but we're only talking about roughly 5 milliseconds. When we compare the Quest Pro to the Quest 2, I'm seeing almost no difference at all, or maybe about 1 millisecond. Now, I'm sure someone will chime in and say Wi-Fi 6E will be available on the Quest Pro in 2023, which should improve this experience, but my network-based latency is already down to 3 milliseconds, so there's really minimal room for improvement there. When it comes to overall quality and clarity testing, I'll get back to that in just a minute. Now, load times on the Quest Pro also seem to match the Quest 2, but if you saw my Pico 4 review, you would know that load times have been significantly improved on that headset. Now, there was one major performance boost that I saw on my Quest Pro, but unfortunately, only content creators will care about it. Modern Quest 2 games have begun running like complete garbage while you're recording video. The Twilight Zone was a perfect example, and I recently began testing demos of Aspire 2 and Drop Dead the Cabin, which are almost unplayable when recording with enhanced settings. But on the Quest Pro, there was minimal to no lag at all. To me personally, this is one of the biggest selling points to the Quest Pro for me as a content creator. Now, jumping into visual testing, I lined up 4 headsets and loaded up the same game on each. Just to name a few titles, we have Space Pirate Trainer, After the Fall, and Contractors. Switching back and forth, there is zero question that everything looks better than the Quest 2. We'll remove the index from the equation for 2 seconds because it's PCVR only, so I spent most of the time comparing the Pico 4 versus the Quest Pro. Now, this is game dependent and mostly based on colors, but I have to give a slight lead to the Quest Pro. Even though the Pico 4 has higher resolution panels, the mobile VR hardware can't run games at the native resolution, so it doesn't really benefit much there. And when you load into certain games, most notably for me was After the Fall, the colors look bland and dull on the Pico 4 and vibrant and more exciting on the Quest Pro. It feels more than an objective artistic style. It's not like turning your TV into vibrant mode and saying, wow, that looks better. It just feels like more overall color range. Additionally, the Quest Pro has some extra resources with 12 gigs of RAM and the XR2 Plus chipset, which is basically just a thermally improved XR2. This does allow developers to take full advantage of the Quest Pro, making games look better than the Pico 4 and Quest 2, but I'm not expecting a large amount of adoption to this, and currently the only game I know of that has been improved is Red Matter 2. Jumping back to the Valve Index, you can definitely get your games to look great, or even better on a Quest Pro or Pico 4 than this native PCVR headset. Now, this is extremely hardware dependent, and in my case, I'm running an RTX 3090. On top of your GPU, your network also plays a big role, so results will definitely vary. I am still currently inclined to use my Index over a wireless solution, but I don't want to spend much time on the reasoning there, and we need to go over the fact that the Quest Pro has brand new features. AR Passthrough and both eye and facial tracking are Meta's attempt at shifting this device's use case to productivity and social interaction. Unfortunately though, at this moment, both are almost completely useless to me. I couldn't fake my enthusiasm testing facial and eye tracking. I definitely think it's cool and find it hilarious looking at my character getting disappointed, but I kept wondering to myself, when would I actually use this? It's currently limited to Meta's avatars, and Horizon Worlds is a crappy ghost town. And AR Passthrough was even worse. While it does an excellent job of capturing depth and giving you a near one-to-one copy of the real world, I unfortunately can't read anything or use any screens while in AR mode. I tested the Immersed application, which I found to be very similar to something like Virtual Desktop, and there's just absolutely no benefit to me working in this style. I'm sure there's some very specific use cases out there for the AR Passthrough, but I'm yet to find them. I'm really curious to see how Enterprise handles this device, but I feel ultimately we really don't need this technology just yet. The device is mainly just a dev kit, and consumers would have been happier if they gave us something like a Quest 2 Plus. A reasonable device could have been around $650, excluded the facial tracking, new controllers, and color pass-through, and fully enclosed the form factor. I'm hard-pressed to see user adoption of this device in business environments outside of a few very specific industries, and the headset still remains very much a Quest 2 with added features that I'm not sure anyone truly needs or wanted. I hope software developers and the business sector do take this headset in a completely new direction. They introduce us to new experiences we never expected, and I'm absolutely blown away later down the road. But as it stands right now, this headset introduces a lot of moderate improvements, while also giving us a bunch of new issues and a massive $1,500 or higher price tag. I still can't recommend it for gamers, especially because you'll need to buy additional light blockers, an extra battery pack, and the Pico 4 is already an excellent alternative, and the Quest 3 has also been recently confirmed to be coming next year. So resist the FOMO and save yourself $1,000 unless there's something very specific on this headset that you absolutely need. Okay everybody, that was today's video. Again, if you have any additional questions, drop them in the comments, I will respond. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you're new here, consider subscribing, and as always, I will see you guys on next time.